Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us for Racing Dudes Live on Thursday, May 19th with Jared Welch, Aaron Halterman, and Mike Somich. Aaron, you and I have been talking a lot the last 2 days. Let's let the newbies talk a little bit. Jared, I'll start with you. Your thoughts on the Preakness as we get closer to it.
It's I think the closer. By the way, it's great to be back on the show. I've enjoyed watching the coverage from you and Halterman. But I got tired of it, so I was like, I better jump on and actually say something important. No, I'm just kidding. But no, really, I think the closer you get, Epicenters becomes a bigger and bigger standout. But you also, I think, to me, the closer we get to the race, Secret Oath is like. I think I still think she's the only one that can probably beat him if he's going to lose. I think early voting is going to be in the mix. I did the video on our YouTube page there on our YouTube channel. I think she'll have to pass him. Epicenter will have to pass him because I think early voting will, it'll all go through him, right? But I think Epicenter heads him at the top of the stretch, and then it's a matter of Secret Oath. How can she have that same kit? Can she run down to pretty good horses? So the closer we get, I think Epicenter's a clear standout, and I think the only horse, in my opinion, that it can beat her, that I'll be playing to try to beat him, I should say, is Secret Oath.
Mike, let's stick with Epicenter here, but then we'll talk about Secret Oath. What have you thought about Epicenter? I mean, he's the 6-5 morning line favorite, probably going to be sub-even money when the race goes off. So what do you think about him?
Deserving favorite. I mean, I picked Epicenter. I'm going to pick Epicenter. I'm not sure how you kind of get around it. The trip is just going to be perfect here in this spot. Jared mentioned early voting is going to go to the lead. I agree with him. Simplification, still absolute wild card in my mind of what he's going to do in this race. I think that's going to be a big key. We've seen him be able to clip off a 23-47 type half. That would be right there with early voting if early voting isn't pushed. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in that first quarter, first half, and what simplification does. I think that's really the biggest question mark in my mind. But the problem is that if simplification goes and we get a quick pace and Epicenter gets to sit right behind it, advantage Epicenter. If simplification misses the break and comes from behind, and it's just early voting and Epicenter gets to sit right on his flank, advantage Epicenter. So I don't see any way that there's because of Epicenter's versatility, a negative pace scenario here for Epicenter. It's not going to be like the Derby where you get this 21-45. You're going to get reasonable fractions, which is going to set up nicely for the horse sitting right off them.
Aaron, any thoughts that have changed on Epicenter?
No, I think he's getting ready to run the best race of his career, to be honest. I kind of took the approach, I know we've talked all week, Magic, that you're going to have to play against one of these shorter prices. I kind of taken the approach to try to stay away from simplification. It's not really a knock on him as much as it's just, listen, you got to get a price involved somewhere. He just kind of seems like the one you can kind of make the strongest case against. That being said, I would not be shocked if he won the race because he is a very consistent horse. But at the end of the day, I think Epicenter is primed and ready to run huge. I'm pretty good about reading Steve Asmussen with his interviews. I think he's ecstatic with this horse. And I think the horse on our screen right here, Magic, is the one that can run him down. But I just don't know if she's quite good enough to do it. But as we get close, Secret Oath is the one I'm most scared of. But yeah, I just feel like Epicenter's getting ready to run a big one, and I think it's going to take a giant effort to beat him.
And to further his point, I think Steve and Blasi and those guys, I don't think they understand how they lost the Derby. Like when you listen to the interviews and stuff, they're like, you know what I mean? Like one, they've never won one, so they have that kind of hanging over their head. But two, it's like you just got to put it behind you, and you could tell the way they're talking in these interviews that they're here because they think they basically are the best horse, and they probably should have won the Kentucky Derby.
Good confidence. I'm obviously Mike and I fans of Epicenter for the Racing Dudes Fantasy League. So I'm with you, Aaron, and Mike and Jared, that I think Epicenter's my pick. Secret Oath is who I'm scared of. And Jared, I do want to go back to you. Secret Oath here on the screen if you're watching us live. You had tweeted out something shortly before we went live talking about the coach and the Arkansas Derby, and I'll quote it right now, but the coach was talking about her trip there. He says she should have won the Arkansas Derby. She should have won by open links. We did not get the trip, and we did not get the ride. So he basically confirms everything that we were kind of feeling and saying, that, looking at what Louis Size did with her in the Kentucky Oaks, maybe she could have won that. So building off of that, your thoughts on Secret Oath, Jared?
As I said, I the closer we get, the more I like her, that quote, by the way, I mean, you want Dwayne in every possible big race you can ever have, because his quotes are just legendary leading up to it. It's fantastic, and he has a way of running horses in this race and running well. And the thing about Dwayne is, something Halterman and I know really well, obviously, with following him so close over the years, like when he's got a good one, especially a good filly, because all the reports are, he's training her into the ground. He's training her, he's Dr. Miranda. But listen, that's what he does. He trains the shit out of his horses when he has them right. And typically they run great until they don't, So when he's got a good one right, they're really good, And so he is training her hard, because look how good she is right now. And that's just what he keeps her at that peak level. So I would be surprised if she does. And that's why I like her so much, just because I think the race is going to unfold. And that's why the Preakness typically over the years has been very standard in terms of best horse usually wins. You usually see pretty clean trips, and you don't have a lot of excuses built in there. I just find it hard to believe that she's not going to make a good run, especially with Luis Size aboard.
I want to bring up Luis Rivas in the chat, asks, and a good kind of follow-up here, Aaron. Is Secret Oath fast enough to beat Epicenter buyer-wise? From a buyer perspective, no, but the speed figures are different between that, Brisnet, Timeform. I only know buyers, how they compare. Aaron, you're a Timeform guy first and foremost, so how do they stack up Epicenter and Secret Oath?
They're pretty similar. It looks like Epicenter's best Timeform is a 120. And Secret Oath is a 116. That's not a huge difference, in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, if you're asking the question buyer-wise, well, you can read it just like I can. No, she's not, according to the buyers. But, that's not the end-all, be-all of it. Look, I'm skeptical that she's good enough to beat Epicenter. And if you listen to Dwayne Lucas's interviews, kind of just seems like the only horse he's worried about is Epicenter. So I think Dwayne is kind of skeptical that she's good enough to beat Epicenter. But we've seen Epicenter lose to horses a hell of a lot worse than Secret Oath. And so that's where this thing is at. And that's why swallowing a short price at a win wager on Epicenter gets a little bit dicey. If you think he's going to be 4-5, and then you think about a Jackie's Warrior 2 weeks ago that was 4-5, it's a lot easier to swallow that price on him, because when he shows up, they can't beat him. When Epicenter, he's lost to horses, like I said, that aren't as good as Secret Oath. Now he's also beaten horses that may be better than Secret Oath. So there's the plus side of it. So again, the horse doesn't care that he lost, right? But Asmussen, Scott Blasi, they seem like guys that are coaches of a team that just lost a game they should have won. And they want to get out there and run so bad to just show everybody, look, we shouldn't have lost that race. So, but with that being said, Secret Oath with Luis Saez aboard looked awfully, awfully good last time out.
Mike, Jared, either of you, from a speed figure perspective, have you seen anything different than buyer Timeform that you use?
No, I think Aaron hit the nail on the head there. She's going to need to improve. And the question is, can she improve off 2 weeks? And be able to take a step forward to catch these guys, because she needs to get better. Her Kentucky Oaks is not good enough to win this race, so she needs to get better.
From a thorough number, which, I mean, this is another number, right? That's why I don't try to put too much stock into. Epicenter ran he's the definition of just he runs his race, right? He's ran twos across the board, and a lot with the thorough, the lower the better. 2.5. He ran a 2 in the Derby, and with Secret Oath, she ran ones at Oaklawn. She ran a 3, 1.5, so I should say, at Oaklawn. She ran a 3 in the Arkansas Derby. Wasn't great, bad trip, and then she ran a 2 in the Oaks. So to me, I mean, again, like, she's right in the ballpark with any of these, even with Epicenter.
I see Ron in the chat here brings up Skippy Longstocking, so when I put him on the screen there, it says crazy, but the fresh horse he's going to try to play to get in the exotics is Skippy Longstocking. Listen, if you watch the video that I did over on our YouTube channel, yeah, I agree. I think he's a strong candidate to hit the board at a solid price. But that kind of brings up a good point too. Is Jared and Mike, you guys weren't here when Aaron and I discussed it, but the trifecta has historically put at least one new horse, and oftentimes recently 2 horses that weren't in the Derby in the Preakness trifecta. So who are some horses that you're looking at who are not coming out of the Derby who are going to hit the trifecta aside from Secret Oath? Let's not talk about her.
Well, I'm actually interested in Skippy Longstockings as well. That was the horse that I put in I think it's the 4th spot in my picks. I think that if he's able to take a step forward, he's going to get the right type of setup here. He's not going to be too far back, be able to be close to the pace, and should be able to run home. No issues with the distance. And you have early voting, who he ran, 3 lengths behind essentially last time out. I think early voting is going to be right there at the end. And so if early voting is close and I'm getting 5 to 6x the price on Skippy Longstockings, I think that makes a ton of sense to use them in the exotics.
Yeah, and there's a crazy, Halter and I were working last night on the the bankroll that we're doing for the Preakness, which the guide will be available just not long after this is over at racingdudes.com. But we're working on the bankroll, and we're kind of trying to we're throwing out different ideas on how to play the Preakness and looking at past payouts. And it's a good idea to go through and see what past exactas have paid and things of that nature, of how you see this race unfolding. And there's like a weird, I wouldn't call it a trend, but we kept noticing, like, when you have a horse that's probably supposed to win, like, they win, and then you have some like 10, 15 to 1 shot that finishes second. And so it may not be the worst idea to, if you really like Epicenter, like, play Skippy in the second spot, play Creative Minister in the second spot, play Fenwick, or whoever you like, because even though when you look on paper, like, yeah, Secret Oath should finish second or early voting should finish second, but we've just seen in the past where, Pharaoh wins and then Televerve gets second, and, or Justify wins and Bravazzo sneaks up there for second, whatever it is. And it all of a sudden makes, Justify at whatever he was, even money under even money, and it pays 10 to 1, 15 to 1 on an exacta. So there's better or worse ways, I should say. Like, if you can't play, like, if Epicenter at 4 to 5 is just too low, which I kind of think it is, find a way to make some money on the exacta.
Another horse we could talk about is Fenwick. He's, it was a complete no-show in the Bluegrass Stakes, but he beat Command Performance in that maiden special weight at Tampa Bay Downs. And I'd completely forgotten about it, Aaron, until I watched the video that you did talking about Fenwick. And, oh, that's right, he is the horse that beat Command Performance. Sorry, Jared, I'm not bringing that up for you specifically.
One of the horses, not the horse. There's a list.
The latest one. But here, we'll put him up here. It seems like his only shot, it's to go to the lead and try and go gate to wire here. Jared or Mike, any shot here that Fenwick can do that? And if not, go gate to wire, being a son of Curlin, who sired Keen Ice, who sired Rich Strike, could he hold on there and be one of those horses in the exotics?
He'd have to be faster than he ever has been to get the lead in this race. The one time he has had the lead was in that Tampa Bay race that you mentioned, where he beat Fenwick, and they went 48 seconds to the half. He's never done faster than 48 seconds to a half, and there's no way early voting is going 48 seconds. So something's going to have to give for him to be able to be there right at the end. He's one of those that I don't see a single performance on the page that puts him in the top 5, and so I can't put my money on him.
Jared?
Yeah, I don't. I think the only thing Fenwick is for me in this race is just adds a little bit of more pace for, if you like some of these, if you like Epicenter, you like Secret Oath, kind of stalking the pace. I think that those are the two that benefit the most from Fenwick being in the race. The pace sets up where it's fast enough, and it also softens up enough with early voting, right? Just enough. I keep, by the way, I think I'm blaming Magic for this because I keep calling early voting cloud computing. And I think I saw it on a post or something we did that Matt and I, because it's like they're the same. Like, and I told Halterman last night, I was like, I may put him in the winner circle because cloud computing won.
Yeah, plenty of comparisons there between the two of them. Shadia, it's too late for horses to enter. Yeah, once they draw a race, it's that's it. And when you can pull out at that point, but you can't try and get in there.
Let me ask you guys. I want to ask you guys this about Secret Oath. Halterman and I have talked a lot about this, and part of the reason is why we think she's got a big shot is because it's not the strongest Preakness we've ever seen, right? And that's part of the reason why you think, at the very least, like finishing second, it's a great shot. But like, is she I know Dean Wayne has said, well, I think she can be, but she's not yet. Is she like a Rachel? Like, is she possibly that level? I mean, if she wins this, obviously she makes her case moving forward. But how do you view Secret Oath? Is she like just the circumstances are right for her to run here, or do you actually think she's like a super freak filly?
A step below a Rachel or a Swiss skydiver at this point. But yeah, this race could elevate her. And make no mistake, she's here because this race is weak, right? I mean, this is a guy in Dwayne Lucas who basically has told us all year, I'll take shots when there are shots to be taken with the filly against the boys. It was a weak Arkansas Derby. And so he took a shot, right? This is a weak Preakness. So he's going to take a shot. And she's not Zenyatta.
No.
She's not Rachel. She's not Swiss Skydiver yet. There's a long ways to go to get there. Now, if she wins the Preakness and then goes up to Saratoga and wins the coaching club in the Alabama, then you start to think about it. She's got a lot to prove before we put her in those kind of terms.
Yeah, I don't think we can compare anyone to Rachel Alexandra. I think that's almost an insult to her in that sense. Not just because if you look at what she did, I mean, she won the Haskell. She won the Woodward against older males in her 3-year-old year. I mean, her campaign in her 3-year-old season was something that is just absolutely astonishing when you look back at it. So that to me is kind of crazy. Comparing her to Swiss Skydiver, I think, is much more fair, where you had one horse, an Authentic, that was clearly the best horse in that race. And I think that's the situation we have here with Epicenter, is clearly the best horse in the race. And can she beat that horse on that day is the question, right? And I think she's got a shot at beating Epicenter, but I think it's going to be awfully tough. Like I said, she needs to improve, and I'm not sure it's an easy spot for her to be able to improve off a 2-week layoff.
Let me
just before anybody throws any more rocks, like just comparing Rachel in terms of she won this race. She is not in any category of Rachel, so stop throwing stuff at me. I didn't mean that they're close. Obviously,
jeez. You would have thought Jared was live at the track.
The Rachel year was my first.
Rachel Alexandra and Zenyatta. Do not insult either of them. Right. You will get hate immediately.
The Rachel year is like one of those, like, I remember where I was at when I watched that race, was standing right next to Halterman at a OTB and at a Indian casino. We were brand new to the game, and that was my first like Preakness that I really was invested in, that I knew all the horses and I bet on, you know what I mean? And so not only is she a freak filly, but I have a special place in my heart just because of that was such a awesome memory of I never will forget watching the TV and them turning for home, and you just see her with this wall of horses behind her. It's like, well, see how good she is. So okay, another question. Happy Jack. Is he a long shot consideration for anybody? I mean, the Doug O'Neill and getting blinkers on, or is he you think with now Gaffleone aboard, do you think he's gonna show a little more pace here? Can he? I don't know.
To me,
I've been asked that question a lot with Happy Jack.
Could he not? I mean, if he just would have shown something in the Kentucky Derby, like maybe run 8th, maybe just pick up the feet once, and you would think, yeah, maybe he's got a shot. But it's like everything really set up for him to run much better than what his odds were in the Kentucky Derby, and he didn't do it. And so that's the problem I have with Happy Jack. he can get fourth or fifth or third the same way a lot of them can, right? Just he runs up and a lot of them just slow down for whatever reason.
O'Neill said that Happy Jack's tail got stuck in the gate, like when they shut the gate on his tail, and then it pinched him, and so that when he took off, his tail was stuck. Dead serious. That's what he said happened to him. He's like, well, you try running the Kentucky Derby when your ass hurts, basically, is what he said.
Well, look at the horses around him. He was next to the winner in Rich Strike and the one horse. They both ended up in the top 5, and he runs 14th with the same setup. So it's like, do you really think that he's going to be able to change that much because his ass feels better on this Saturday? Like,
if there was ever a race that he was going to like show some sort of flash, it would have been that one, right?
Yep. Exactly what you want from a setup perspective. Just look at the horses around him where they finished, and he just did nothing.
Yeah. And to that point, back to simplification. When we talk, I did the preview for him as well, and I just
yes.
I guess
comment of the day
couldn't
right
hear
there,
tugs,
Vicky.
apparently.
Not only did it happen to you, they tugged on it. I think whenever.
There was no one there.
No, I know, right? It's crazy. And yet it still got stuck. Simplification, like when you watch the replay of which by the way, that's an awesome photo. Magic.
It was when Aaron was doing his favorite Preaknesses, he talked about that exact thing, that wall of horses, so I screenshot it. So when you brought it up, I had to find it. It's
just amazing. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wide of horses. Just literally, the whole screen is covered with horses behind her.
Nobody got her.
When I watch that race, I'm always shocked how well Mind That Bird ran.
I know.
Like the ridiculous price in the Derby, run second. Mind That Bird would have been going for a Triple Crown if Rachel Alexander wasn't in the Preakness. How crazy is that? Like,
that's what I always say. Tell people, I'm like, dude, if it wasn't for a freak filly, we would have had the bomb shot going for the Triple Crown. And then people say, well, he ran well in the Belmont too. People forget that.
Ran third, right?
It ran third, and it was not a great ride. It went way early on him, and he just kind of flattened out. But can you imagine? And people also forget Calvin Burrell rode Rachel in that race. He switched from the Derby winner onto her. It was like some people listening to this don't even know who Calvin Burrell is. At that point, he was red hot when it came to classic type races and Triple Crown especially. Dude was winning every horse he was on. It was crazy. But anyways, with simplification, Halterman, you kind of mentioned it earlier, like playing against, and when you watch it, I think he's one of the truest and maybe one of the more versatile horses in the race. But you talk about the trip setup, Somich with the Derby, and him and Rich Strike were basically side by side, and then one went to the rail, one went outside. Simplification was the outside. He was making up ground, and I think he's a true horse, but then it's he just couldn't quite get past, Epicenter and Zand. You know what I mean? I just don't know. I think he's going to give you a run, and that's my fear. That's why I ultimately ended up putting him, I think in my top 4. I think I put him 4th, just because I think he's going to go, right? He'll give you an effort, but I just don't think he's quite good enough to win this level of race. You look back at the Florida Derby, back-to-back grade 1s, Florida Derby, Kentucky Derby, not quite good enough. Fountain Youth, grade 2, won. Holy Bull maybe should have won, but still finished second. These are grade 2 level, grade 3 level races. I think when you get to this level, maybe he's just a cut below, but he's still very good.
I think when you look at simplification, his Kentucky Derby may have been his best lifetime race when you look at his trip and his finish position. Because some of those races down at Gulfstream that he lost, he doesn't have a great excuse. Just Whitebarrow was just a little better than him, right? And then you get to the Derby, and it was kind of a flip. So I don't take just the Kentucky Derby and what happened there and handicap it to the Preakness. I still look at the whole body of work, and that's kind of where I'm just at. It's like, God, did he run his race in Kentucky, and can he do that again? I'm not sure.
Well, especially with this year's Derby, I think that's the least valuable data point on the page for simplification because of how wonky it was, because of the fact that you saw so many horses come from the back and that he was able to kind of set up that rally. So for me with simplification, I'm more interested in saying, well, look, this horse has run 5 times this year already, all of them in stakes company, going 2 turns in 4 of those 5 races, and now has to wheel back after 2 weeks and running probably his biggest effort, going the longest distance he has been. I think it's still a big ask here for simplification. But I do agree with Jared. He's a Johnny Triard horse. Every time he does run, so I wouldn't be shocked if he is around there, but I think it'd be very difficult for him to win. And he's, to me, the one that you want to fade of the 4 favorites if you're trying to fade someone in the Super.
Yep.
Yeah, I definitely would, especially at 6-1. I mean, I get that's fair, but I just think key him in the like second and third and fourth spots if you want, just because I just don't want to waste my money with, boxing or using him on top for anything, just because I just don't think he's good enough to do it.
Let's see. Where was the other one? Oh, there was a comment here from Curtis. Did you guys see that Asmussen's assistant trainer Scott Blasi said he gets Curlin vibes from Epicenter and he doesn't think they'll have anything for him on Saturday? Aaron, as a big fan of Curlin, when you heard that, what did you think?
Yeah, I did hear it, and it's it's kind of a crazy comment. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know that I get Curlin vibes from him, but at the same time, that's kind of speaks to what I was said kind of at the beginning of the show. I have followed this barn since 2007, and not much changes with the Asmussen barn. Scott Blasi was the head assistant in 2007. I know when it's like trainer speak and when they're really confident, and they're very, very confident. If you were paying attention last year, Jackie's Warrior was coming into the Pat Day Mile, and if you remember, he was coming off 2 losses in a row. He wasn't very good at the Breeders' Cup, and he got beat at Oaklawn in the Southwest Stakes. He was not like a lock to win that race. And I remember watching an interview before that race about Jackie's Warrior, and Asmussen basically said, I don't think he's going to lose the rest of the year. And so I quickly changed my pick to Jackie's Warrior, because that's the kind of stuff, if you pay attention, he will tell you stuff like that. These aren't like, they were all YouTube interviews that I've been watching. I haven't seen him on TVG or anything like that, but they tip their hand. And they are extremely confident in this horse. So that's good enough for me to be confident in Epicenter. I really don't believe they would be here if they weren't extremely confident that he was going to win.
A great question here. Jared, Mike, we'll go back to you guys. What price would you need to bet Epicenter to win? What is the right price for you to go? Here's $100 from my bankroll.
Go for it, Somich. I'll let you decide.
I wouldn't bet him under 6-5. I have him at plus 250 and plus 150 because we've talked about it on the Magic Mike show when his odds are both plus 250 and plus 150 a couple weeks ago and last week. There's a couple plus money bets that are still available, but to me 6-5 is the correct value price on the horse. I do think that there's some worthwhile plays in daily doubles where I'm going to single him in the pick 4 where I'm going to single him most likely, and where you could try and make money playing exotics with him singled on top. But as a straight win bet, I don't think there's a ton of value left unless you can find like plus 125 somewhere in a fixed odds market.
Yeah, I think 6-5 is probably where I would land to. Maybe even money, maybe. But, that's the thing too. Like when we're doing the bankroll article last night, it's like you're kind of assuming he's going to be bet down like 4-5 ish, and that seems logical, right? That if he's 6-5 morning line, he's, if he's 2-1 morning line, he'll probably be bet down to 6-5, right? So it's just kind of like the morning line kind of is going to help dictate where he's going to go, and I think it is going to be sub even money. So yeah, and that's the issue. And like we talked about it earlier with Secret Oath, like she brings up the issue of, do you really want to play him at 4-5 with kind of her looming in here as well? That even though I agree we're all on the same page, I think here he should win, but he also has a little bit of a track record of losing races maybe he shouldn't. So that's the issue with 4-5 for me.
Like Vicky says, press tickets. So in that sense, if you're going to play him, you exacta, play him on, key him on top in an exacta and use a couple prices underneath, and don't use the next 3 prices. You guys were talking about you want to drop simplification. Maybe you want to drop early voting. Jared, I thought you made a great point in your early voting video where in his last 2 races, it seemed like he was getting a little bit tired at the end of those 1.125 races, and each time it was like you could make excuses for why he could improve next time, and there's a little bit of a gap in between races, but there's a gap between this and his last race, right, in the Wood Memorial. So I thought that was a great point. And if you guys want great information like that, we all have done these previews for the contenders that are up on our YouTube channel, so you can go check those out. Tried not to be as mean as we were about some of the Derby horses. I think we learned our lesson with Rich Strike to just say if we just don't think a horse is for us and kind of move on from there. How about Secret Oath? If you wanted to play Secret Oath to win, what's the lowest price, Aaron, that you should take on her?
About 4-1, 7-2. 5-2 is too short on her to win. I think you need to demand a little bit of value. I think you'll get it because I think Epicenter is going 3-5, 4-5. So I think if your line is 5-2 on Secret Oath, you will be betting Secret Oath because I think she's above 5-2 in the spot.
Will she be the third choice? You think early voting gets more money?
I think she goes off second choice.
Do you really?
Yeah. The story is going to be a big thing on that day. You got a lot of money, a lot of $2 bettors that add up in that spot, and I think you're going to see a ton of money come in on her.
It's Chad Brown versus the filly, right? Like, what is going to appeal more to people? Well, if she does drop down to like 5-2, I just think she's unplayable to win. I just think you need to demand a little bit more from that horse. But like I said, 7-2, 4-1. I think that's where she should be.
Right now, they're 4.5 to 1 choices as second choices overseas.
Okay. What does the overseas market currently have Epicenter right now?
You can get anywhere from -105 to +105. +105 sitting up at Bookmaker right now, just in case anyone's interested.
No, that's not horrible.
Here's another way we can try and make some money with Epicenter if you really like him in the Preakness. This is the Black-Eyed Susan Epicenter double, so we're going to take a look at the Friday race a little bit here. And 13 fillies going a 1.125, so there's a good chance that at least 10 of them don't want to go this far. So if you're finding a horse here and you want to find some value because going chalk here isn't going to be the best move, we don't want to use Adari Manor. She's the 5-2 favorite here. Jared, I'll start with you. Looking at this race, anybody who stands out to you, maybe a little bit of a price who you'd want to use with Epicenter in this double?
Yeah, I was just actually looking at that race just because I'm with you. Like, Adair Manor. Bad
favorite.
I mean, I get the appeal. Like, I loved her prior to the Sandy Oaks. Now she's on our third trainer. I mean, like, what has happened? I don't know. It's just weird. Like, something tells me like you cannot trust her any bit right here. So I don't know. Like, not a huge price. I think Luna Bell is very interesting at 9-2. And then I'm not. I don't know. Divine Huntress, I'm looking at a little bit on the rail with Pratt aboard, but that needs to improve. This race is a mess. I mean, Miss Yearwood looked really good on that main special weight, but I don't know that she's quite good enough. But it is kind of an interesting kind of new shooter, so to speak, here. Distinctly possible for Chad Brown at 6-1. I'm looking at a little bit. That race was impressive. That main special weight at Keeneland, kind of finally breaking through there. Irad's back aboard. So those are some of the few I'm looking at. Right now, my top pick is probably going to be Luna Bell, but I just started kind of diving into this one.
The local horse there. Mike, have you taken a look at this yet? I know you're still catching up.
Yeah, I have actually. This is one of the races. So I was on You Better You Bet yesterday, so you can check out the superfecta for the Preakness there if you want to look at that. And this is one of the races we talked about. I thought Luna Bell actually was really interesting at 9-2. So I agree with Jared. She's won, I think it's 5 straight, and just kind of gotten better and better as they stretched her out. So I think that's definitely interesting. And the 11 horse as well is a little down the line. 12-1 Radio Days, I think, is the other horse that I was interested in. So those two are the two I'm going to play into the Preakness. I think that you get some decent value, 12-1 on Radio Days, and the 9-2 is not bad on Luna Bell, who I think is going to be bet down on race day. Interstate Daydream, I also think is a little bit interesting, the 9 horse for Brad Cox. So those are the 3 that kind of jumped out at me in here, but the 6 and the 11 were the 2 that I liked the most.
Aaron, you're the lead handicapper at RacingNews.com. Where did you go with this race if you wanted to play a price with Epicenter?
I wouldn't talk anybody off any horse in this race. It's just not one I've got a strong opinion on. I keep going back to number 7, Distinctly Possible. I know Jared mentioned this horse a little bit as well. Look at the 2-year-old form. Got beat on debut, but only got beat by half length by Jerry Mander, who ran a very good race that day. Chad Brown goes right from my maiden special weight, stretches out to 2 turns, and tries to take on Juju's Map and the Darley Alcibiades. This horse ran really well, got second, beaten 4 1/4. You look at how Juju's Map came back or I guess it'd be 2 weeks ago at Churchill, looked fantastic. And then the maiden at Keeneland last time out, first start as a 3-year-old, stretching back out again, mile and 16th. This looked really strong. And so I think this horse can jump up to Stakes Company and kind of get the job done. I don't think there's a horse as good as Juju's Map in this race. So if this horse just kind of improves off of that effort, second off the layoff, I think she factors in here. Unfortunately, I think there's a lot of horses that factor into the race. But I'm hoping that the number 7 Distinctly Possible kind of gets a nice stalking trip, just like she did last time out. There seems to be a lot of pace in here. I think a lot of this pace is going to start to back up, and I think she's going to get first run. Now, can she hold off a horse like Luna Bell? I don't know. It's going to get a little bit sketchy trying to hold off those horses, but I think this horse, Distinctly Possible, turns for home with the lead, and then it's just going to be the acid test. Is she good enough to hold off some horses?
A rare chance to catch some prices on some strong connections. Rosario and Shug McGahee with Radio Days 12-1. You don't get them at that price. Cox and Giroux 6-1 with the Dirt Filly. That doesn't happen. Chad and Irad on Distinctly Possible, like you're talking about. Flavian Pratt going to be making his last start for a little bit in this race, and then a little bit of a vacation for him. But he's going to ride Divine Huntress for Grand Motion, who's got 2 in here. So watch out for those horses as well. If you want more information, Dr. Miranda did a full deep dive on all 13 fillies, and she was very happy. No secret oath to have to worry about. She's been on the wrong side of secret oath all year long, so she's very happy she didn't have to worry about her in this race. So you can check that out. That's over at our YouTube channel. But let's go through the comments. There's been some great comments coming through here. Hard to trust. Oh, there you go. Vicky brings up no mention of Darren Manor. Hard to trust, but at Desert Dawn ran well in the Oaks. I apologize. I forget who mentioned it, but now she's on her 3rd trainer. She was with Baffert, then she went to Yakteen and lost. Now she's with McCarthy, who was getting the worst of the Bafferts, if you say that, when the split happened. So how did this happen? And I guess, Aaron, I'll start with you. What did you think about this?
I've got her in the mix. I think she's going to just be too short of a price, and I did not like her last race. And honestly, kind of the Messier spillover. She earned that one huge race, that huge figure, on the same day that Messier earned his. Oh. He did not come back to run very well. And then Adari Manor, she wasn't bad in the San Diego Oaks, just like Messier wasn't bad in the San Diego Derby. But did she really have any business losing that race? I don't think so. So I'm cautiously got her 3rd at the moment. But I don't trust her as far as betting a win.
Yeah, she was my, Aaron, you remember this, she was my Oaks pick for right after she broke her maiden, and she broke her maiden right at the same time Under the Stars, won a graded stakes race for Baffert, and I was like, no, Adari Manor is the best one. And then she lost the Oaks to Desert Dawn at the wire, and I was like, well, she's trash. I don't want anything to do with her anymore. So I probably swung a little bit too far to the other side there on the pendulum. Jared, where do you land on Adari Manor?
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that. I was like, I was ready to, that same day, of course, as Taba and the San Diego Derby, but I was like, I was ready to say, I just need to see a Dare Manor win, and that's my Oaks horse. I don't need to think much about it. And then she lost, and I've swung the complete other way. So maybe the hate's too strong, but I think bigger issue is the price. She's going to be bet too hard probably, and I just don't know. I'm kind of now on the point where it's until we see Dare Manor, until we see Messier, until we see Taba, until we see these horses with Bob Baffert listed as a trainer, I just don't want to really touch them. That might be borderline, but still, it's what do you always say? These horses are running like shit. And a Dare Manor now on her 3rd trainer, no thanks.
Mike, this is an interesting discussion here with Nick and Curtis that Messier Taba could be the next to follow suit. Maybe we don't even see them again until Baffert's allowed to run horses.
I agree, Curtis. Yes.
Oh, yeah, we'll see. I would be surprised if we see them as well. I think they both needed a break anyway, and you're going to see them campaign possibly up in New York. I wouldn't be shocked if they switch barns if the plan is the Travers. We'll see what the actual long-term plan for both those horses is, and I think that'll determine kind of where they end up. Yeah, Adair Manor for me at 5-2 is just too short. That was the issue I had, especially if we're talking doubles and you're going to play epicenter, singled on the other side. I have zero interest in betting the Adair Manor epicenter double. That's just, it's going to be way over bet. And and if you ask me which race is more wide open, well, it's this one. So I'm going to try and find a shot in this spot versus trying to beat epicenter, which I think is a lot less likely. And if I beat epicenter, I'll try to beat epicenter with the co-second choice. It's either early voting or it's secret oath. Here, you could throw a dart and any of these horses could beat Adair Manor. So to me, this is just much more wide open. It's a better chance to take a shot against the favorite.
Let me try to make a case for you. Now, again, I have not finalized my picks here, but just going through this. Let me try to make a case to you guys on the 3 Miss Yearwood. You guys say whatever. Distinctly possible. That's that horse beat last time out. Beat Miss Yearwood. That horse that race that Halterman mentioned at Keeneland going to mile 16th. Well, then Miss Yearwood came back from that race, went to a 1.25 miles, which you don't often see for 3-year-old fillies earlier in the year, but go to 1.25 miles and won by 7.25. Just beat the shit out of the field, and now you're getting here. Now the biggest thing is you're getting 20-1 on her versus 6-1 on Distinctly Possible. So if you like Distinctly Possible, isn't there a case to say Miss Yearwood maybe makes some sense there underneath, especially at such a huge price?
I mean, her winning is kind of what put me to have the number 7 Distinctly Possible on top. Yeah, I mean, I get it. I kind of get the point of it. She ran really well in that race, and they were pretty clear of the 3rd place horse in that. So yeah, I don't hate it. I think she's very interesting at 20-1. And
we'll take charge, baby.
Well, like I said at the beginning, I'm not talking anybody off any horse in this race. I mean, if Rich Strike was in this race, I wouldn't talk you off of him. It's a wide.
Sure, you wouldn't.
So, you could say, if you wanted to go crazy, if you really thought Epicenter was going to win, and you really think that a horse outside of Adari Manor or Luna Bell are going to win this race, you could go all but the short priced horses and then single Epicenter there, or maybe pick 10 horses here. You've got 10 horses here all at big prices into Epicenter. If this ends up at a price, you're going to have exponentially larger than whatever your price the horse was in that race. So if you got the budget, if you want to get a little crazy, or if you've got $10, $20 to do Epicenter, key him in the race, or whoever you like in the Preakness, and go with the price here. Is Miss Yearwood the new Barber Road? You guys, Jared brings up Miss Yearwood and the chat explodes. The only one that doesn't like it is Nick, and that's just because he hates Julien Leperoux like a fool. So
apparently we can kiss 21 goodbye to everyone.
Oh no, you'll get 20-1 on that horse. Don't worry. I mean, I could poke so many holes in that thing and turn into a piece of Swiss cheese by the end of it. But yeah, you'll get 20-1.
I'm surprised you don't like that horse. That seems like a horse right up your alley.
Because it didn't improve second off the layoff, faced 6 horses in that field and won by 7 after being 12 back. That field is probably full of a bunch of donkeys. 3 and up, going 1.25 miles, running 1 mile and 1:39, and wins by 7 is not impressive. We're just going to say.
Well, what usually happens in those races is there's 1 or maybe 2 that like the distance, and the rest of them don't.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes the margin what it is. I look more of, she was 1.25 lengths away from my top pick, but And
to be fair to your point, and again, you look at it. I don't know what the time form says, but in the thoroughs, Miss Yearwood regressed dramatically from the race she lost. She got a 5.5 to just when she lost to Distinctly Possible, and then came back and won by 7 and got a 9.
Yeah.
So,
but I trust Chad Brown to be able to point a horse forward more, which is Distinctly Possible's trainer, than I do Ian Wilkes, right? And I think that to me is the reason you're seeing those differences in odds, right? I mean, Chad Brown second off the layoff, you'd expect Distinctly Possible is going to take a step forward, and she'll need to win the race, but you'll expect that she does. Whereas Miss Yearwood, we didn't see that progression, and now we're hoping we see it third off the bench.
Yeah, and going long. I mean, not 1.25 miles long, but you're going somewhere between the last 2. Maybe use her underneath. She could, she could be one of those horses because, like Halterman said, maybe if we know she likes going longer, right? So at least might clunk up there for third, or third or fourth, and maybe can help balloon a try or something.
What did you think about this? We can get off of this topic for a second because I forgot until Nick brought it up. Todd Pletcher, who's already got Mo Donegal going to the Belmont, he said Nesma could be a maybe for the Belmont. Like if we could have 2 fillies in 2 of the 3 legs of the Triple Crown. That's pretty damn awesome.
Well, Todd Pletcher won the Belmont with Rags to Riches, so he did win it with a filly. This horse is not Rags to Riches, not really close. Well, I shouldn't say that. She has a pretty damn good resume, and she does have the pedigree for it, like Rags to Riches did. So, if he puts her there, you kind of got to trust that he sees something, right? And he's not just doing it for the hell of it.
Yeah, I think it also tells you just how bad this 3-0 crop is.
I thought you could say how bad Mo Donegal is. But yeah, so
well,
3-0 crop as well.
That too. Yeah, that too. That tomato, right?
So Chris says, let's face it, this race is a donkey Grand Prix. I love it, but a lot of future entrants in the Iowa Oaks. How dare you besmirch Prairie Meadows on this show? First you besmirch Rachel Alexandra or Zenyatta with blame talk, and then you besmirch Prairie Meadows here, Chris. You're asking to get booted here, buddy. Careful. Jared, question for you, Mr. Fantasy League owner of Command Performance. Will he run in the Belmont if Fenwick does well here?
He's my last hope to get some points, just the 10 points for running. I think he's going to run in it. I mean, I'd be surprised if he didn't, just because he has been training, and he's a horse that wants to go long. He sucks, but I think that was the goal all along. I don't think it matters what Fenwick does, frankly. I think the owners have been putting him in spots he doesn't need to be in. So I wouldn't be surprised if they just threw him in the Belmont because it's a Triple Crown race.
Isn't he still a maiden?
Yep.
I mean, don't you think you're more likely to get 5 points for the maiden victory than 10 for entering the Belmont?
No. Because I don't think he's going to win the maiden.
No. He's going to
No, I want him in the Belmont, so I get 10, because that's for sure. That's like when Stellar Tap entered, what was it, the Rebel? Maybe I was like, yes, because I know he's not going to win like just an allowance race. So at least I got the 5 points for sure.
It's Command Performance could be the first maiden to hit the board in the Breeders' Cup Classic in 2023. Like, yeah, there he is. Like he's going to be like a $2 million earner.
That's the thing. He's made a
19,
bunch of money,
10 and 6. That's his record.
Yep.
Gentlemen, it's been a good talk. We do have tomorrow left, so we'll preview, dive into Friday and some of the Saturday undercard races on tomorrow's morning show. But I think that can do it. It's been a great show. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you to Jared and to Mike Somich for joining us today. And if you enjoyed this, if you enjoyed seeing these 4 lovely faces, guess what? You get to see us a hell of a lot more today going live, because we'll have the Magic Mike Show live at 5 Eastern. We're going to be doing the late pick 4 at Pimlico on Saturday, so get ready for that. Blinkers off with Aaron and Jared. I'm sure you guys will be talking a little bit of throughout the races on the cards and some of your favorite spots. Do you have an idea what time you're going live with that?
It'll be normal time. It'll be 6 o'clock Central Time.
6 o'clock Central. Okay, perfect. And then Dudes Who Bet Sports. Aaron, what time are you guys going?
Yeah, we're going on in an hour and 10 minutes. We'll be on at 2 o'clock Central Time. Definitely going to be talking Preakness undercard a little bit as well. And then, of course, NHL, NBA playoffs still rolling strong, so we'll have all those topics covered. Like I said, 1 hour from now.
Blue's going to get revenge tonight on Colorado. Watch for it. It's going to happen.
I doubt that. Very seriously.
Hey, listen, I believe in it. Thank you so much for joining us. Before you leave, click like on the videos. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and hit the little notification bell so you get alerted when we go live. We'll be back tomorrow at noon Central. Until then, take care, everybody. Thanks for joining us.